On today's Hot Zone, we're going to talk about mayhem and chaos in Haiti. What else is new, right? Coming up next on the Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, we've got a special guest today. I've got my good friend and brother and my wife's cousin, Kevin Falde. He and his family are missionaries in Haiti and have an amazing history there and just had to get out during all this chaos. And so we're going to go to him and let him explain to us what the heck is going on in Haiti right now. Kevin, it's great to see you. Thanks for being with us. I'm glad you guys are safe.
Yeah, it's good to be home.
So give us just a quick rundown of what's going on in Haiti. Why are things blowing up there right now?
Well, from the best I can tell, there's a whole list of things. The Petro-Carib oil money is a big issue, but I think the straw that broke the camel's back was just the inflation. The price of everything is skyrocketing. The value of the gourds is dropping. So people just can't live. They just can't buy the basic necessities.
Now, why do they blame that on Americans, or do they?
Well, I think they're blaming that on their government. The corruption in their government is the primary thing, and they see that. And I think with this new generation, they can see online and through TV what all the other countries have, and they're tired of not having the basic infrastructure.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine that. You know, if you go to a place where they don't have internet and TV, people are pretty content with whatever little they have. But the more access they have to see what everybody else in the world has, the more unhappy they become, it seems like.
Right. Yeah. And they're seeing that. You know, they have the internet now, they have TV, and they're just frustrated, and they can't live. I mean, if the price of rice and beans doubles, I was talking to one pastor yesterday on the phone, and he said the price of flour and beans has basically doubled, and they were already struggling to live anyways. So
I imagine that makes it very, very difficult. So give me a little bit about your history in Haiti and why you're there and what you're doing there.
Yeah, so my parents were missionaries down there in the 80s. So we were there in the Duvalier time, when he was getting kicked out back in 86, 87, and we were actually able to stay through all of that mess. So we're kind of used to seeing the chaos down there. And I pastored, as you know, and planted a church in South Carolina. I pastored there the last 12 years, and God worked on our hearts to take us back down there full time. So we're in the process of raising our family support to work down there. But as you know, and you guys have been big supporters of Parakaleo, we started an organization just to stand beside pastors and national leaders down there and help them plant churches and work with them down there. But so we've been down there the last 7 weeks, and it was a little chaotic this time, but we went down to work on our house and get that set up. We also had some missions teams come and go while we were down there. And it's interesting, always interesting to see how God opens the doors just at the right time. We had one group that left about 2 weeks ago, and they got out right before everything closed down. So that was a big blessing. And then everything shut down for about 10 days. And right before our family was supposed to head out, everything shut down, and it opened up right about 2 days right before we were we're supposed to head out. So
when you say shut down, I mean, describe the scene. What was it like down there?
So they decided to force the government to do something. And when I say shut down, usually these things only last a day or two and then they blow over. But they shut it down. In other words, in every country road, this is not just something that happened in the capital. They cut down huge trees and fell them right across the road. They piled up rocks across the road. We pulled up to one roadblock, and this was only about a quarter mile from our house. We stopped within 50 yards because as we pulled up, rocks started coming out from the woods. People were hiding in the woods, throwing rocks at the roadblock. We saw one motorcycle pull up to it, and it was kind of humorous. The people jumped off the back and started running. The driver turned around, but they decided to just shut every road down. There was another road in Kajak there, which is still somewhat out in the country. They took steel and welded from one side of the bridge to the other. They welded steel across the road to say this is permanent, where no one's going anywhere. And that's kind of their tool of telling the government, you have to make a move. You have to do something, or else nobody's going to get anything. So for the short term, they're hurting themselves, as some people would say, but they're hurting everyone. And that way, everyone can feel the pain that no one's going anywhere. So the diesel trucks, gas trucks can't go anywhere. All the cell phone towers out in the country, they just have a big diesel generator powering them. And if a fuel truck can't get out there, then there won't be any cell phone signal either. So they shut everything down.
That's really amazing. Now, you say they're upset about the corruption. Is it the appearance of corruption? Do they just feel like things are corrupt, or are they right? Things really are corrupt.
They're right. They're right. And one, they've struggled with this for who knows how long, decades and decades, if not more. But they know how it is, and it's just a system based in corruption. Who's more corrupt than others? I remember asking one friend, why don't you guys ever vote in a president for the second term? If he's a decent president. And he said, well, even if he was a good president, he's still corrupt. So it's somebody else's turn to get a piece of the pie.
So they just sort of expect it now. Well, Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And, I've been there many times, been there with you several times. And it's one of the most, I hate to use the word godforsaken places, but I just don't know how else to describe it. Why do you think Haiti is so bad? I mean, even the other side of Hispaniola in the Dominican Republic is not near as bad as Haiti, and they have very similar circumstances. So why is Haiti so bad?
Well, I think one of the keys there is the government corruption. If you look back in the past, guys like Duvalier, those guys have always left with millions, if not billions, in their pocket, and that was the infrastructure money. That was the country's money to build roads and electricity and all these other things. I think the other big thing is spiritually is the voodoo. That's satanic worship, and it's all over the country. I mean, it's just entrenched. So much so that they say 85% is Catholicism, but it's mixed with voodoo. So people that profess to be Catholics are, many of them, fine with satanic worship at the same time, which is kind of sad.
So what does that look like? I mean, you talk about voodoo, you talk about satanic worship. How would you recognize it when you're there? I remember you telling me about when I was at the mission house and I heard some drums off in the distance or some music or something, and you said, oh yeah, that's one of their worship services. Right.
And, just on a normal day-to-day basis, you wouldn't even know that these people, like a witch doctor, is a witch doctor. I was out at our house, this was last year, and I just went out into this one garden, started talking to this older couple and just building relationships there in our neighborhood. And it wasn't till later, when I was on the back of a motorcycle riding past those people and waved at them, that my driver just laughed, and he said, do you know who those people are? And I said, well, no, I just met them a little while ago. But he said, that's one of the witch doctors and his wife here in the community. So you wouldn't know just talking to people on the street, but at their house, they have all the idols, they have the basins, the for sacrifices and all these other things that they do.
Well, and there are also sort of annual celebrations. I know in Kajak Mill there's a very profane, sexualized celebration, something like that I've heard about down there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, and those start sometime in January, and they have Mardi Gras. They have, and I think this was the Mardi Gras time in February. And then it's rah-rah, they call it, and it's just one after another. And that's also, it makes you scratch your head and wonder, why are we doing this? Because the government actually funds a lot of those celebrations. So even though they don't have money to put into electricity, running water, they're funding these major parties that go on for about 3 months at the beginning of the year. So.
Wow. Well, talk about the Haiti is one of the most heavily missioned countries in the world. I mean, it's close to the United States. It's very needy. We've been pouring billions and billions of dollars down there in aid ever since the first time I was there back in 1987. And I mean, if you add up the total amount of money the United States has spent in Haiti, we've pretty much bought that country 2 or 3 times over at this point. But we don't make things better when we do that. Talk about that and what you've seen as far as how the aid gets misused, gets misspent, and how it actually hurts the people we're trying to help.
Right. I would start by saying a lot of the aid, especially after the earthquake that's been raised, the money never even got to Haiti, the vast majority of it. Who knows, with the Clinton Foundation and all of these others, even the Red Cross, a lot of the money just never got here. And much of it that did was just wasted. But on the mission side of things, I would say, the most effective thing, I think, is to work with nationals and help them, help their people, help pastors get churches planted down there, and in places where they don't have schools, work directly through and with nationals to get the work done. It's a lot more effective long term. It takes more time because sometimes that means helping guys get the training they need. For instance, one of the pastors we started working with a few years ago, he had a second grade education when we started. So that's a long-term investment. So we started paying a tutor to work with him, and he's like in 6th grade now. And he's a grown man with his family and children, but the long-term idea is that he'll get to a place where he can go on and get some more formal training and develop in his leadership skills. But even though it's a long-term investment, I think it's the most effective thing to do, because sometimes we go down and with this save the world mentality, and we build and do what we want to do, and it looks good for us as Americans, but it has no long-term impact.
Right. Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that we can make trying to help people is to go down there with the idea we're going to make good little Americans out of them, because they have a different culture, they have a different expectation, they have a different understanding of the world. And you guys are doing it right, because what those people really need, I think, is to see a functional family where a husband loves his wife, where the children obey their parents, and to have somebody come and live among them and to do life with them and show them how that looks from a Christian perspective, rather than just go down there and throw a bunch of money at them, throw a bunch of clothes at them or whatever. We've seen this phenomenon where they have a bad harvest, and so the United States sends shiploads of aid down there, which don't get there for 3 or 4 months, and by the time they get there, they've had a new harvest that's actually good, but we put all of the farmers out of business because they can't compete with free coming off the ship. And so we kind of perpetuate this cycle of poverty. It's almost like we've said, welfare has done such a great job of getting people out of poverty in the inner cities of America. Let's export that to Haiti. Does that frustrate you? Yeah,
and some of it, the big picture of it, frustrates you because even the free food we send down there, they don't get any of that free food. Most of them have no idea that we're sending free food down.
That's right.
The government takes it and sells it, and then those people sell it. And after it gets sold about 5 times, somebody finally gets it. That was, it was intended for them in the first place to be free.
Yeah, I actually did a story about that one time where I went down there and went into the marketplace, and there are all these bags of rice that say U.S. aid, a gift from the American people, not for sale, in English, and they're sitting there selling it right out of the same bag, and you're going, this is supposed to be given away, and they go, well, we had to buy it from the government. So that's part of that corruption you're talking about. Well, how can we pray for Haiti as we end here? What does Haiti need, and how can we pray for those people?
Well, I think number one is pray for the government, and that's a biblical thing. Pray that those in authority would do their job and do it well, and be honest with what God's entrusted to them. Pray for the people that are serving down there, especially the pastors that are working hard to serve people. A lot of those pastors are struggling to feed their own family, and then they have the struggles of all the people in their church to deal with at the same time. And so they're under a big burden a lot of the time. But just pray for those that are serving down there, and pray honestly for the different teams, the missionaries, the organizations working down there, that God would give all of us wisdom as far as what to do to be most effective. There are a lot of different teams working in Port-au-Prince and throughout the country, and some of them are doing a great job. Others you wonder what they're doing, but pray that we'll just have wisdom for effectiveness and efficiency long term.
Well, one of the things we've seen is that Americans are the most charitable people group on the planet, but sometimes that discernment of using our money wisely is lacking. And that's one of the things that we try to do with this podcast, is kind of let people not just see the news and see what's going on from an on-the-ground perspective, but actually make the news better by being able to directly, through me, reach into people's lives and help them right where they are at their point of need, and know that their money got right where it needed to be. So folks, if you're looking for somebody to support, if you're looking for a place to put your money, especially if you have a heart for the people of Haiti, I tell you, Parakaleo Ministries is the place to go, because these are people who are living there, who are directly impacting the people who need it most, and not just from a temporal perspective, but from an eternal perspective as well. So Kevin, thanks for being with us. It's good to see you again, brother. And I hope to get a chance to spend some time with you this summer when we get home.
That sounds good, brother. Tell Connie I said hi.
All right, man. God bless you. Take care.
All right, thanks.
That's it today for the Hot Zone. Thanks for watching. If you want to support what we're doing, go to patreon.com/hotzone and subscribe, or you can donate, like I said, to PayPal or write directly to Parakaleo Ministries. That's PARAKELO Ministries.com. Thanks for being with us on the Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.